I've been a fan of the Guilty Gear series since the X2 days, and I can tell you something. The series has never been afraid of trying different things with its entries. Most fans are well familiar with games such as Isuka for its weird Smash-like gameplay style and terrible controls that make the game nearly unplayable. Or Overture for being a MOBA inspired by Dota. But I nearly never see anyone talking about Guilty Gear Judgement. Released in 2006 for the PSP, Guilty Gear Judgement is a beat-em-up game in which players must uncover the mystery surrounding the disappearance of the people of the island of Little Izine. The game features 21 playable characters in total, with 16 of them being unlockable by playing the story. The spin-off was the first release in the Guilty Gear series to deviate, even if slightly, from the fighting game genre, and the first one to feature a male final boss, Judgement. Something that would only happen again in Guilty Gear 2 Overture with Deathman and Guilty Gear Strive with Happy Chaos. If only he would turn his gun around and blow his brain. After a week with no communication coming from the small kingdom of Iltania in the eastern European remote island of Izine, the United Nations emits an alert and offers a large reward for anyone that can investigate the island and restore order there. Upon arrival, characters notice that people seem to be disappearing mysteriously in the island. Eventually, they discover that Raymond, a sorcerer that formerly served the Sacred Order of Holy Knights, is capturing villagers and conducting experiments on them that transform them into monsters. Raymond is just a regular little evil dude doing normal island activities, kidnapping people, forcing them to partake on things against their will, and cleaning up any potential whistleblowers, you know? But in his attempts to create a weapon to surpass Metal Gears, he discovered how to tap into the power of the yokai. Believing to be conducting the will of God with his work in his land promised 3,000 years ago to him, he stumbled upon a way to reach Inus, the king of the underworld, leading the bounty hunters to follow him. In the underworld, Inus apparently devoured Raymond. With the bounty hunters killing Inus, Raymond was able to absorb the power of the underworld king and become Judgement, as he planned. And he be able to rule the world and deliver judgment upon it if it wasn't for these meddling heroes ruining his plans. Guilty Gear Judgement's gameplay is what you might expect from a Guilty Gear beat-em-up. Fast-paced with a lot of freedom as to how to engage enemies, with characters being able to roam and cancel specials by inputting other specials, creating lots of combo and improvisation possibilities. However, while you indeed juggle enemies for days and get tons of meter to cancel as many moves as you want, the gameplay has some detriments, especially for veterans of the series. First and foremost, the controls. If you're familiar with the Guilty Gear series, you're probably used to having the 5 attack buttons: punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, and dust. Forget all about that. In this game, you get 3 weak, medium, and strong attacks. The weak attack button for the most part gets moves that are traditionally assigned to punch and kick, such as down kick and forward punch, and down dust and jumping dust were bundled together with heavy slash moves. This means that for the most part a lot of characters are missing their down heavy slashes and jumping heavy slashes, which I'm not gonna lie, in many cases would be fantastic for a Guilty Gear beat-em up. Also, some special moves, particularly those that had a half circle back forward input, such as the overdrives and Inus' horizontal and vertical chemical love, were turned into half circle motions to accommodate the tiny and inaccurate PSP stick. Being a beat-em up, the developers wanted players to be able to move up and down, and you probably know what that means. Remember the missing kick button? Yeah. You now get a jump button in its place. It's a little awkward to wrap your head around this, unless, of course, you're one of those weirdos that love Isuka. But even then, you'd be surprised to find out that in this case, there's no turnaround button. It may sound like this is good, as in Isuka, that button nearly single-handedly ruined the game. But the problem is that Judgement is really picky with the direction that your character is facing. One wrong input and now your quarter circle back move is not coming out, and instead your character is now punching the wrong direction. This is annoying as you can guess, and I hate to admit it, but it might be the reason for most of my deaths in this game. Also, as a side note, all characters are pretty much imported from XShoe/Reload, both in terms of sprites and movesets. Still, for some reason, Kai gets his slash and quarter circle back move, Crescent Slash, from Guilty Gear X, which is bizarre to be honest. While the playable characters are clearly imported from the main series, the enemies are unique sprites that were made for this game, and it's quite obvious. Their sprite quality clearly doesn't match the general Guilty Gear aesthetic, and look like they were hastily put together to make the game. The stages also share this visual aspect. Everything looks like it's made out of plastic, lacking details, and overall just look off. For the most part, the enemies are not particularly engaging. They act mostly as punching bags for you to practice combos on. You get a few weirdos here and there that force you to adapt your playstyle, such as the maggots that force you to use low hitting moves, but they are rare. To give credit where it's due, the boss designs are pretty interesting. Even though I don't remember what these centipede guys were, I just remember that they existed when I checked out the gameplay footage. The stages are pretty linear and Judgement doesn't have much replay value in general. Clearing the story with different characters doesn't provide meaningful lore and dialogue entries. It just unlocks new characters that are set as encounters in the middle of the story. So unless you're really crazy about a character that needs to be unlocked, there's not much reason to even bother beating the game with different characters. However, overall, the gameplay is pretty fun, considering what you're allowed to do. It's just that it has a few hiccups that make it rougher to play. Guilty Gear Judgement suffered from being a side game during the time that the Guilty Gear series was still not popular enough to get eyes on every side project released and being a PSP exclusive. While the series' niche public at the time already limited the game's reach, limiting the game to the PSP further trimmed down the potential public that it was going to reach. Also, while fun, the game does feel a bit lazily made, put together with scraps here and there and shipped. The enemies and stages that look out of place like they are made out of plastic, the lack of replay value, the nonsensical story, the game's awkward controls, and the fact that Isuka already had a beat-em-up mode that is much better than this, kinda make Judgement feel like a pointless game. Low effort, released on the PSP, and not particularly interesting enough to warrant a buy from fans of the series. At a time in which Guilty Gear wasn't as big as we would get in the future, Guilty Gear Judgement ended up being a forgettable entry for the series, falling into the realm of forgotten games. All things considered, Guilty Gear Judgement is an okay game. It is a good pastime game, one that you play without paying much attention to what is going on in the screen. It does feel a little redundant because Isuka already had a great beat-em-up mode with GG Boost, but it does pretty well what it is trying to achieve, giving you a solid 1 to 2 hours of fun. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe and leave a comment. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.